The stars shimmered like cold ash against the void, silent witnesses to a graveyard that once was Earth's heart. The UHS Resolute, humanity's flagship and symbol of defiance, drifted above Vareth Prime, her hull a mosaic of scavenged alloys and battle scars. Each patch told a story. Each fracture remembered the day the skies burned blue fire. Commander Evelyn Drake stood at the observation deck, her reflection fractured across the glass. Below, the Dominion's capital glowed in crystalline arrogance, silver spires rising from volcanic plains. She could almost hear the echo of orbital bombardments in that silence, the thunder that had turned her homeworld into dust. "Fleet check complete," said Lieutenant Orrin Vale, her adjutant. "We're cleared for council docking. Dominion protocols, as expected. They insist we power down all weapons before entry." Evelyn didn't turn. "Let them feel safe. It's the last comfort they'll get." Vale hesitated. "Ma'am, with respect, this meeting, it's their home turf. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and—" She finally faced him. Her eyes were calm, too calm. "Lieutenant, the Jathun have been outnumbering us since they burned our world. The difference is we stopped caring." He fell silent. There was no point arguing with someone who had already walked through fire. The Galactic Council chamber was a cathedral carved from light and gravity. Rings of alien delegates floated on magnetic fields, arranged in concentric tiers. The humans, only 6 of them, walked through a corridor of staring eyes. Some looked curious. Most looked disgusted. The scent of antiseptic ozone filled the air. Even the atmosphere felt sterilized against them. Evelyn's boots clicked softly on the transparent floor as she approached the center dais. The High Admiral Virex Sor waited, towering and iridescent, his exoskeletal crest shimmering like oil over steel. His voice carried through the hall, deep and resonant, each word weighted with centuries of contempt. "Commander Evelyn Drake," he announced, "representative of the fragmented species once called human. The Council welcomes your persistence." The room chuckled in polite venom. Evelyn inclined her head slightly. "Persistence built your cities, Admiral. You burned our world to end us. Yet here I stand, your guest, not your ghost." The laughter stilled. Virex's pupils narrowed to vertical slits. "You speak boldly, for one whose home is gone. I speak as one whose home survived in every ship you failed to destroy." The council proceedings began, a ritual of bureaucracy veiled as diplomacy. Terms were read, amendments discussed, accusations thinly disguised as concerns. The Dominion delegates argued that humans lacked a planetary base and thus, legally, sovereignty. The Kalari representatives whispered that humanity's resurgence risked instability. The council chair, a neutral synthetic mind, merely observed, processing the emotional calculus of 100 species. Evelyn waited through it all, silent as a blade sheathed in patience. When her turn came, she activated a holographic projection, Earth's orbital ruins frozen at the moment of the burning. Shattered continents, molten storms, and scattered colonies flickered in midair. Gasps rippled through the assembly. "This," she said softly, "is the legacy of your peace." A pause. 74 years ago, your fleet sterilized our oceans. You called it necessary containment. Yet humanity endures in fragments, yes, but fragments sharp enough to cut the galaxy open if we must. She let the words hang like smoke. "We are not requesting sovereignty. We are reminding you that we already took it. The fleets you see now, the broken pieces, they build themselves. They grow, they vote, they fight. They are humanity." Virex leaned forward, his carapace catching the chamber's light. "You expect pity?" "Never," Evelyn said. "We expect recognition." He smiled, a predatory baring of mandibles. "Recognition requires relevance, Commander. Without a world, you are a myth wrapped in metal." Evelyn tilted her head. "Then let this myth haunt you." During the adjournment recess, Evelyn moved to the side corridor, where hollow panels displayed news feeds from across the galaxy. Each headline screamed speculation. Human delegation demands reinstatement. Dominion accuses humans of fabricating survivor data. The war of words had begun long before she stepped foot here. Vale joined her quietly. "That was risky. You humiliated him in front of the council. That was the point," she said. "He fights with fear. I fight with memory. Do you think memory is enough to win this war of diplomacy? It's not war yet, she replied. But it will be, if they force us back into silence. Her hand brushed the data chip concealed within her sleeve. Encrypted intelligence smuggled from Dominion archives, proof of genocide. A piece of Operation Black Sun, not yet. She needed the right moment. The next session resumed under colder light. The Dominion delegates proposed a new clause. All surviving human fleets were to disarm under Council oversight until stability was achieved. A murmur of agreement spread among the tiers. Evelyn rose slowly. You want us to disarm? Her voice carried, level but resonant. We already did that once, when we trusted your peace treaties. Her hand touched the console. Holograms flared. Images of Dominion slave camps on outer moons. Human survivors chained in mining rings. Gasps erupted. Delegates shouted, some in shock, others in denial. These are not myths, she said. They are your laborers. Your proof that the war never ended, only changed uniform. Virex's composure cracked just for a second. This is fabrication. Then open your archives, Evelyn replied, stepping closer to the dais. Let the council see the truth. Silence fell. Even the synthetic chair hesitated, parsing the weight of accusation. Virex hissed. You play a dangerous game, Commander. You are one fleet. We are an empire. And yet, she said quietly, you're afraid. Hours later, in the quiet of her quarters aboard the Resolute, Evelyn removed her uniform jacket and sat before a window of endless night. The stars no longer looked beautiful. They looked wounded. Her comm unit pulsed once. A voice whispered through static, Black Sun is ready. Say the word. She closed her eyes. The weight of command pressed against her spine like gravity itself. Not yet, she murmured. Let them think we're still crawling. The strike comes when they start laughing again. Vale's voice came through the doorway. Ma'am, incoming transmission from Council Command. They're requesting your immediate return for verdict deliberation. Evelyn stood, shoulders squared. Prepare Shuttle 1. Dress protocols, diplomatic formality. Let them see the ghosts of Earth walk into their court. Yes, ma'am. Vale paused. You think they'll vote against us? She gave a faint, humorless smile. They already did 74 years ago. I'm just here to make them regret it. As the shuttle detached from the Resolute, the planet below gleamed beneath a fractured sun. The Dominion's towers stabbed at the clouds, symbols of a civilization that believed itself untouchable. Evelyn stared down at them, the reflection of her own eyes overlaying the image. Human irises framed by cold fire. Let them call us broken, she whispered to herself. Broken glass cuts deeper. The shuttle descended toward the Council's light. The war for Earth's ghost was about to begin again, this time fought with truth sharper than any blade. The Council chamber was emptier than before, but the silence felt heavier. The verdict session loomed over the hall like a storm waiting to break. Every delegate pretended neutrality, yet every glance spoke allegiance. Evelyn Drake stood in the center circle, alone, her posture as still as orbiting stone. Commander Drake, announced the Council chair, its synthetic voice crystalline and devoid of inflection. The Dominion claims your evidence was fabricated using stolen AI systems. Do you have an official statement before judgment? Evelyn's gaze flicked toward Virex Sor, seated across the void on his throne of bone-white alloy. His crest shimmered with smug restraint. She could almost hear the unspoken triumph in the way he adjusted his posture. Victory rehearsed in arrogance. Her answer was quiet, but deliberate. You call it fabrication because the truth offends the powerful. Every frame I showed was drawn from Dominion archives. If your council doubts that, request open verification. Murmurs rose through the amphitheater. Shock, defiance, disbelief. The Ja'Thun delegation hissed in unison, an instinctive show of dominance. Virex leaned forward. You threaten the structure that protects you, human. Without this council, your kind would still be drifting in the dark. Evelyn turned to face him fully. We survived the dark, she said. You should have left us there. The dark teaches sharper lessons than light. The chair signaled for order. Enough rhetoric. The vote shall commence after deliberation. And just like that, the assembly dispersed, leaving Evelyn standing beneath the cold shimmer of the suspended hologram. The image of Earth's ruins, still hovering where she'd left it. She shut it off with a single touch. The hall dimmed to nothing. Hours later, the corridors of the galactic diplomatic spire buzzed with speculation. News feeds broadcast fragments of rumor. Human evidence discredited. Council in deadlock. J'Thun demand sanctions. Evelyn walked through it like a ghost. Her escort tried to match pace, but she moved with a precision that made conversation impossible. She reached the observation gallery, a vast chamber of transparent alloy overlooking the night side of Virith Prime. Below, the planet's continents pulsed in lines of molten red and blue, industrial veins glowing through the clouds. It was beautiful in a predatory way, a civilization that glittered on top of the bones it buried. A voice broke the stillness. Impressive, isn't it? Entire cities powered by geothermal veins, efficient, cold, very much like their hearts. Evelyn turned. The speaker was Dr. Ron Vell, the neutral AI ethicist from the Kalari Collective. Pale, thin, his translucent implants pulsed faintly under his skin. He offered a polite nod. "I saw your presentation," he said. "It was surgical." "Not enough," Evelyn replied. "They won't believe your data without authentication." "They won't want to," she corrected. "Belief is irrelevant. They fear what happens if they admit we were right." Ron studied her for a long moment. "You're playing a dangerous game. They're already calling for your removal from the council." Then whisper the word sanctions. Evelyn's tone was even. "Then they'll learn what sanctions mean when applied in reverse." He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You humans don't bluff, do you?" "No," she said. "We build traps and wait for arrogance to step into them." Ron reached into his coat and withdrew a small data crystal. "You'll want this. Dominion AI fragments. Corrupted files from their deep archives. I found them embedded in the Council's maintenance grid, hidden intentionally. The content suggests something pleasant." She took the crystal, weighing it between her fingers. "What kind of unpleasant?" "The kind that changes everything you think you know about the burning." Her eyes sharpened. "How deep?" "Deep enough that even their historians don't remember the truth." "Be careful. The Dominion doesn't erase, they overwrite." Before she could reply, a security alarm blared across the corridor. 3 piercing tones. Dominion guards flooded the hallway, silver-armored and silent. Their commander bowed stiffly to her. "By order of the Council, all human representatives are confined to quarters pending review." Evelyn didn't argue. She simply nodded. "Very well." As the guards escorted her, Ron whispered, "I'll decrypt it. If I vanish, follow the trail." Back aboard the UHS Resolute, the atmosphere had shifted from tension to restrained fury. Crew members whispered in the corridors, eyes flicking toward their commander's office door like soldiers awaiting judgment. Evelyn entered her private briefing room. The lights dimmed automatically. A holographic map of the known sectors shimmered to life. Clusters of red markers indicating human refugee enclaves, yellow for trade allies, blue for hostile borders. Vale stood at the console, jaw tight. "Council broadcast just came through. They suspended our voting rights, pending full investigation." Evelyn removed her gloves slowly, placing them on the table. "Predictable. They called it procedural caution, ma'am. But it's a message." "It always is." He leaned closer. "Permission to speak freely?" "Granted." "They humiliated us again. Every officer on this ship wants payback. Say the word and we'll burn one of their relay stations as a warning." Her expression didn't change. "That's exactly what Virex wants, a reaction to justify suppression." Vale exhaled, fists clenched. "So we do nothing?" "We prepare," she said quietly. "War doesn't always start with weapons. Sometimes it starts with whispers." She activated the data crystal. The projection flickered. Thousands of corrupted images, half-erased voice logs, and a single phrase in alien code. "Project Solvent Dawn." Ron's voice echoed faintly from a hidden recording embedded within. "If you're seeing this, Commander Drake, the Dominion didn't burn Earth because of fear. They burned it because Earth had something they wanted to hide." Her pulse slowed. "Hide?" "They discovered something beneath the Pacific, something alive. A signal, non-terrestrial, ancient. The burning wasn't conquest. It was containment." The audio fractured into static. Vale's eyes widened. "So they destroyed us to bury it?" "Not us," Evelyn murmured. "Whatever it was." For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the ship filled the void like a heartbeat. Finally, Evelyn said, "Prepare encrypted transmission to Black Sun Relay." "Priority 1, Vale hesitated. "You're deploying the network?" "Not fully, not yet. But the galaxy's about to learn what their heroes did in the dark." Hours later, under the pale glow of artificial dawn, Evelyn stood once more before the viewport. The reflection staring back was no longer the calm strategist of the council floor. It was something colder, tempered. The Dominion fleets moved beyond the horizon, their patrols precise, arrogant in symmetry. She watched them like a surgeon studying anatomy, calculating where to cut first. Her comms beeped. Ronvel's voice distorted and faint. "They found me. The files. They're worse than we thought. There were survivors, human test subjects, burned, rewritten, repurposed for biological data studies. Dominion labeled them echoes. That's what the project name meant. The transmission ended with static." Evelyn stood motionless, her fingers curled into fists. The old ghosts of grief tried to claw through her composure, but she forced them back down. Emotion was for later. Now came precision. She turned to Vale. "Ready the fleet's darkwave channels. Every commander, every fragment ship." He blinked. "Orders, ma'am?" "Inform them our enemy doesn't own the truth anymore." Vale nodded but hesitated. "Commander, if this goes wrong, we start a second war." Evelyn looked back toward the dying light of Virith Prime. "No," she said. "They started the first one. We're just finishing it properly this time." The night deepened around the Resolute as the message pulsed through space. An encrypted heartbeat of rebellion. Somewhere in the shadows of the Dominion's networks, systems flickered awake. Files began copying themselves. Truth was leaking, unstoppable. And in the silence that followed, Commander Evelyn Drake whispered to the stars, "You burned our world to erase the truth. Now the truth burns back." The void offered no answer, only the hum of 1,000 awakened ghosts. The ship's command deck glowed in muted red. Every surface hummed with restrained power. Every crew member moved in silence. The UHS Resolute hung at the edge of Dominion space like a blade, caught between reflection and strike. Commander Evelyn Drake stood in the center pit, hands clasped behind her back. The holographic map before her pulsed with encrypted nodes, human outposts, rebel enclaves, sympathetic AIs, each one flickering alive as if breathing for the first time in decades. Operation Black Sun had been silent for 74 years. Tonight it woke. "Confirm activation protocol," Evelyn said. Lieutenant Vale's fingers danced across the console. "All shadow networks responding, ma'am. Civilian relay stations are piggybacking the burst under commercial traffic." "No detection so far. Good," she said. "Initiate the cascade. Every Dominion archive, every council database. Don't delete anything, just let the truth breathe." Vale hesitated. "Once it's out, there's no pulling it back." "That's the idea," he nodded once grimly. Cascade initiated. The deck lights dimmed. A soft tremor rolled through the ship's hull as compressed data streamed outward, invisible but world-shaking. Millions of files, war logs, and classified communications. Proof of genocide, slave colonies, and the erased experiments of Project Solvent Dawn. In the silence that followed, the crew stood as though listening to distant thunder. 2 hours later, the galaxy burned, not with weapons, but with information. Hollow feeds across dozens of systems exploded into chaos. Civilian channels replayed images of Dominion war crimes, of human survivors branded and experimented on as echoes. The Council's networks collapsed under the flood of public outrage. Protests erupted on core worlds that had once called humanity extinct. Inside the Resolute's briefing chamber, Evelyn watched it unfold. Her face betrayed nothing, but her eyes followed every ripple, every reaction. Vale broke the silence. "They'll trace it back to us. You know that. I want them to," she said. "They need to know who gave the galaxy its conscience back." Ronvel's voice crackled through the hollow feed, distorted but urgent. "Drake, your leak hit harder than expected. The Council's in emergency session. Dominion fleets are mobilizing, claiming you used AI warfare to manipulate their archives." "I didn't manipulate anything," Evelyn replied. "I just stopped them from hiding it. You don't understand. They're invoking the preemption doctrine. authorizing military containment under the claim of digital terrorism. Vale swore under his breath. That's war, Evelyn's tone didn't waver. It's exposure. They want to call it war. Let them. Ron's image flickered. If this spirals, entire neutral systems could fall apart. Are you ready for that kind of blood? After what they did to ours? Evelyn leaned forward, voice low. The only blood that matters now is truth. And it's already bleeding across the stars. The signal cut. Later, in the officers' wardroom, the tension finally broke. Conversations were sharp, whispers edged with fear. Lieutenant Vale, Captain Sarah Doon, and Tactical Chief Imani Rowe stood around the central table. Evelyn entered quietly. Their voices fell away. Doon was the first to speak. We've got fleets massing on our borders. The Dominion's 3rd and 4th Armadas are on the move. If they cross the line, there's no going back. Let them cross, Vale muttered. They'll find we learned from the last war. Imani shook her head. And what about the colonies that depend on us? The children born after the burning. They didn't sign up to become martyrs for your revenge. Evelyn studied her carefully. You think this is about revenge? Isn't it? Imani's voice cracked. We're lighting the galaxy on fire to prove a point. Evelyn walked to the viewport. The stars shimmered like sparks scattered across black glass. The fire was already there, she said. We just turned it toward its source. Imani stepped forward, voice hardening. And when the Dominion retaliates, when the Council brands us terrorists, what will be left of your cause then? Evelyn turned slowly. Survival doesn't wait for permission. You think they'll ever accept us as equals? They only understand pressure. So we give them pressure until they break. Doon spoke quietly, her tone measured. Pressure cuts both ways. Evelyn looked at each of them in turn. You've all seen the files. You know what they did to those human subjects, the Echoes. You saw the numbers. 20,000 souls turned into living data experiments. Tell me any other species that would have forgiven that. No one answered. The silence was heavy enough to bend steel. Finally, Vale said, Orders, ma'am? Maintain defensive formation, Evelyn said. If they fire first, the galaxy will see who the aggressor is. Until then, every word from this ship must be truth. Nothing more, nothing less. Imani left without another word. When the door shut, Vale exhaled. She's not wrong, you know. We're walking the knife's edge. Evelyn nodded faintly. Then we walk carefully. News spread like radiation. In the following days, dozens of neutral worlds broke trade with the Dominion. Human refugees were celebrated as survivors, not outcasts. The galaxy's power balance shifted, and in that tremor, the Dominion began to fracture. High Admiral Virex Sor appeared on a broadcast from Virith Prime, addressing the galaxy with venomous calm. The humans spread lies born of desperation. They poison unity with falsehoods. If they wish for extinction, we will grant it mercifully this time. Evelyn watched the broadcast in silence. Vale muttered, He's trying to rally support through fear. That's all he's ever known, she said. Fear is a language he forgets we taught him first. Moments later, a message pinged from the Council's encrypted relay, unsigned but unmistakably human-coded. Evelyn read it twice before speaking. Council support wavering. Dominion divisions detected. Maintain escalation pressure. She looked up. Black Sun cells are working inside the Council now. Vale grinned slightly. Your ghosts are getting loud. Not ghosts, she said. Consequences. That night, she found herself alone in the observation dome again. The artificial lighting was off. The stars painted her face in faint silver. Sleep was impossible. The weight of command pressed against her chest. Decisions written in invisible ink across the fabric of history. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Mani stepped in, eyes tired but steady. I came to apologize, she said quietly. Evelyn shook her head. You don't need to. You were right to question me. Imani hesitated. I read through the Project Solvent Dawn files again. Those Echoes, they weren't just humans. They were hybrid constructs. Part biological, part signal. They were trying to merge us with the thing beneath the Pacific. Evelyn frowned. You're saying the Dominion tried to fuse human minds with that signal? That's what the logs imply. They failed, but the idea survived. Maybe that's what they still fear. The part of us that adapts. For the first time in days, Evelyn allowed herself a moment of quiet awe. They tried to erase us because they saw what we'd become. Imani nodded. Maybe the truth isn't just vengeance, it's evolution. Evelyn's eyes returned to the stars. Then let's evolve loudly. By dawn cycle, a Dominion strike fleet appeared at the system's edge. Their formation was tight, disciplined, and unmistakable. A declaration without words. Contact confirmed, Vale reported. Broadcast incoming. Put it through, Evelyn said. Virex's image appeared, vast and gleaming, his mandibles curling in disdain. Commander Drake, he hissed, you've spread disease across civilized space. You will surrender and face judgment, or your fleet will be vaporized. Evelyn met his gaze with absolute calm. You can't vaporize truth, Admiral. You can only burn yourself trying. Virex's eyes narrowed. Then let this transmission be the beginning of your extinction. The screen went black. Vale turned to her. Orders? Evelyn's tone was quiet but ironclad. Hold position. Do not fire. Record everything, he blinked. Everything? Every word, every transmission, every first shot. History's watching now. Let the galaxy decide who the monsters are. Outside, two fleets faced each other across the void. One an empire of conquest, the other a people made of ruins and will. No shots fired yet, no peace left to keep. Evelyn watched from the bridge, the faint reflection of fire waiting behind her eyes. Whatever happened next would decide whether humanity remained a memory, or became a force that no empire could ever bury again. The void before the UHS Resolute shimmered with tension. Two armadas, one born of ashes, one of arrogance, faced each other in the cold light of a dying sun. The Dominion's warships formed a perfect spear of order and precision, while humanity's fragmented fleet hung like scattered debris, chaotic, asymmetrical, unpredictable. To the Dominion, it looked weak. To Evelyn Drake, it looked alive. Status report, she said, eyes never leaving the tactical display. Lieutenant Vale replied. All formations holding. Power routed through secondary cores. No aggressive movements detected yet. Good, she said. Let them stare at the ghosts they made. Her voice was steady, but beneath it ran the electric hum of restraint. Every officer on that bridge knew they stood one heartbeat away from annihilation, and one heartbeat away from rewriting galactic order. The Dominion fleet signaled. A single command packet flickered across the comms. Stand down or be cleansed. Vale's jaw tightened. Permission to respond? Evelyn nodded. He opened the channel and transmitted 3 words. Come and try. The silence that followed was heavier than any weapon. Moments later, the Dominion's flagship emerged, a vast obsidian construct, light-bending, edges sharp enough to carve starlight. At its core glowed the symbol of the High Admiral Virex Sor, ancient and merciless. His transmission filled the bridge. Commander Drake, he hissed, you had your spectacle. Now you will surrender. Humanity's infection ends here. Evelyn faced the screen calmly. You should have ended it when you had the chance. You speak as though you still have power, Virex sneered. Your fleet is fractured metal held together by arrogance. Arrogance? She leaned forward, voice cutting through the static. We call it memory. His mandibles twitched in irritation. You mistake stubbornness for strength, and you mistake order for control. The connection cut. Admiral's fleet is charging weapons, Vale said quietly. Evelyn didn't flinch. Let the galaxy see who fires first. Across the Council's relay channels, hundreds of worlds were watching. Every word, every signal, every move streamed live. Humanity's broadcast, piggybacked through the Black Sun network, ensured no censorship could bury the truth again. The Dominion's first plasma salvo streaked across the void, brilliant and terrible. It didn't hit the Resolute. It vaporized a nearby civilian outpost caught in the crossfire. The feed captured everything. The screams, the fire, the silence that followed. Vale whispered. They just executed their own innocence. Then the galaxy knows, Evelyn said softly. Send the recording. Every channel, every system. Within minutes, riots erupted across Dominion colonies. Civilian transmissions flooded the network. Voices screaming betrayal, soldiers abandoning posts, planetary governors denouncing their own admirals. The once mighty empire began to crack from within. The council chamber descended into chaos. Delegates shouted over one another as reports poured in. The chair's synthesized voice tried to restore order. This assembly will not collapse into hysteria. But the crowd was already splitting. The Kalari, the Tholn, and 3 minor races withdrew recognition of Dominion authority. A single human projection appeared at the center of the chamber. Evelyn's holographic broadcast. Relayed in real time. Members of the council. Her voice echoed through the hall. You just watched the Dominion fire on unarmed civilians. The same empire that promised peace after burning Earth now burns its own. Vyrex's remote image appeared opposite hers, his tone venomous. You dare manipulate perception through propaganda. I don't need to manipulate anything, Evelyn said. You recorded your crimes for me. Gasps rippled through the chamber as she transmitted the full Dominion archive. Unaltered logs, biological experiment data, execution orders. Vyrex's name appeared on nearly all of them. The hall exploded in outrage. Evelyn's hologram turned to face him. We asked for recognition. You gave us extinction. We asked for peace. You gave us silence. Now the silence breaks. Vyrex lunged forward on the dais, mandibles flared. You think this absolves you? You think the council will side with vermin? Evelyn's tone didn't rise. Cut. No, Admiral. They'll side with survivors. Back aboard the Resolute, the tension shifted. Dominion fleets fractured into civil conflict, half obeying Vyrex's commands, half defecting. The void became a chessboard of mutiny and fire. Vale watched the tactical screen. Multiple Dominion ships are refusing to engage. They're transmitting. Surrender codes? Evelyn exhaled slowly. Patch them through. A dozen alien voices filled the bridge, overlapping, desperate. We were ordered to target refugees. We refuse. We seek protection. Evelyn nodded once. Accept their surrender. Redirect them to safe orbits. No retaliation. Vale blinked. You're granting mercy? Mercy is the last thing they'll expect, she said. Let them choke on it, he smiled faintly. That's colder than vengeance. I know. Then came the final transmission from Vyrex himself. His image filled the screen, flames reflecting in his metallic eyes. His fleet was collapsing, allies turning against him, communications dissolving into panic. Commander Drake, he said, voice low and bitter. You think this victory means anything? You haven't won. You've merely infected the galaxy with chaos. Evelyn's expression was unreadable. Empires fall the way stars die, quietly, then all at once. You just watched your sunrise turn to cinders. He leaned forward, rage cracking through his composure. You are still broken. She stepped closer to the screen. Her voice was calm, absolute. Yes, but broken things cut deeper, he snarled, clawed at the console, and the transmission died. Moments later, the Dominion flagship erupted into light, its own reactors detonating in a blinding bloom that outshone the nearby star. The shockwave rolled silently across space, scattering debris like ashes. Vale whispered, he chose death over defeat. No, Evelyn said softly. He chose silence over shame. Hours later, the galaxy's new map began to form. Dominion worlds declared independence. Council delegates proposed emergency human inclusion. For the first time in living memory, humanity's name was spoken not as tragedy, but as reckoning. On the Resolute's bridge, the crew watched the feeds in stunned quiet. Reports scrolled across the screens. Humanity recognized as sovereign power. Black Sun Network deactivated. Mission complete. Dominion collapses under internal revolt. Vale turned to her. It's over, ma'am. Evelyn shook her head slowly. No, the war's over. The reckoning's just beginning. He frowned. What now? She looked out the viewport, where Earth's shattered remains drifted, an uninhabitable monument, its broken moon still orbiting like a wound that refused to close. Now we rebuild, she said, not the planet. The idea of it. That night, alone in her quarters, she replayed the final moments of the Dominion's fall. The explosion, the silence, the end of centuries of fear, yet she felt no triumph, only weight. A message blinked on her console. It was from Ron Vell. They'll call you a hero. They'll also call you a monster. Maybe both are true. But history just remembered Earth again. She stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. The stars outside her window shimmered with quiet defiance. Humanity had no homeworld now, just countless fragments orbiting memory. But each fragment carried something the galaxy had forgotten: endurance without permission. She whispered to the void, voice steady, almost prayer-like. "We're still here, and we're not asking anymore." At dawn's cycle, the Resolute transmitted one final message across every open frequency. A simple broadcast. No encryption, no politics. To every world that watched us burn, remember this: we are not what survived the fire. We are what the fire failed to destroy. From the ruins of one world, 1,000 began to rise. No anthems, no flags, just ships bound by shared defiance, drifting together under a single wordless vow. Never again will humanity kneel. As the Resolute turned toward the stars, its engines lit the void with pale blue fire, the color of Earth's forgotten skies. And somewhere in that endless dark, the galaxy finally understood what the Dominion never had. When humanity breaks, it doesn't die. It sharpens.